Mark, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for taking time out your schedule. Just a couple of things we'd like to find out about you. Number one, I guess we're at Doctor Who convention today. How did that all come about for you? How did your role in Doctor Who come about?
It's like everything in life. It's about being at the right place at the right time. I was in a soap opera called Angels in the UK, which was the preceder to EastEnders. Exactly the same people wrote it, Julia Smith and Tony Holland, and they went on to do EastEnders. And it was a big nightly soap opera on BBC One. And I played an ambulance driver called Terry, who came from Birmingham. And the lead in that became ill and had to pull out of the series, and they rewrote me as the lead. And much as though I liked working on Angels, it was a great training ground for a young actor. It wasn't something I necessarily wanted to continue doing for another 3 or 4 years, which if I'd taken the lead I would have had to have done. So I rang my agent and I said, Jan, are there any other jobs I'm up for at the moment? Because the other thing you don't do is you don't knock down 3 years' work if you're an actor. Mm-hmm. You think about that very, very carefully. And she said, well, you're up for this thing in Doctor Who. And so she explained a bit about it. And they're bringing this regular character. It's not quite a Doctor Who's assistant, but they want to bring in another interesting character. And it looks, something that you might be right for. And so I went and knocked on John Nathan Turner, the producer's door. And I said, hi, you don't know me, I'm Mark Strickson, but I work on the BBC soap opera Angels. And so he did know who I was. And I said, look, I'm up for a part, I know you're not casting at the moment, but do you think I could read for you? Or I just want to say hi. Mm-hmm. I don't want to take this job if the Doctor Who job's there, because I think I'd prefer to do the Doctor Who job. Mm-hmm. And so I read for him, and I read for the script editor, Eric Saywood, and the rest is history. I got the job, and that was great.
My next question then was Turlo, the character you became. I guess for us fans, we didn't quite know where he sat to begin with, and did you ever think how did you feel about being Turlo?
I loved the character, because he had somebody intelligent, somebody had his own spaceship, he was a sort of like a completely different character than they'd had in Doctor Who. Yeah. So that was great. It was a great opportunity for me in a sort of landmark series like Doctor Who, which at the time was getting, 7 million viewers. Those were the days of terrestrial television, where you didn't have all the cable and satellite channels, and television audiences were huge. And it was an iconic programme. And so, fantastic to go into Doctor Who with an interesting character, a character you really felt could build something. Yeah. It didn't turn out like that. Well, he sort of did. I mean, he was great when it started. He was going there to kill the Doctor, but you couldn't keep Turlo in the TARDIS killing the Doctor, because it relied on the Doctor being terminally stupid or Turlo being terminally stupid, and neither was terminally stupid. So in the end, there wasn't enough room for Turlo in the series. It was only half hours in those days. Yeah. So by the time you've got the Doctor, you've got the villain, you've got the female assistant, well, you've got enough to get getting on with, without having to try and get Turlo in there, and all his complexity.
Thanks. Just something else I'm interested to know, is there anyone you ever would have liked to work with and never got the chance to on the series, or anyone you particularly liked working with?
Pat Troughton. I mean, he was always great fun as a person to be with, and he was a lovely person. And he had a great sense of humour, and I actually really like humour and comedy. And despite the fact I've spent most of my life as an actor playing rather serious roles, I would love to work with Pat. I think it would have been lots of fun.
Yeah, right. We know you as Turlo. We know you as Doctor Who. That's where we associate you with. Also, you've done a lot in the environmental field, and looking at documentaries and some of the stuff you've done, and I guess we'd like to hear a little bit more about that and what you've done after Doctor Who.
I just decided when I was about 29. After Doctor Who, I did lots of things. I worked regularly on British television, in guest roles and things. I made a film of A Christmas Carol with George C. Scott, which you see at Christmas, on television, young George C. Scott. They're much bigger than me. We've got the same eyes, apparently. It worked really well on camera. But I just decided that I wanted to... Life's a long journey. Yeah. I certainly didn't get disillusioned with acting. I love acting, and I really miss not being an actor. But I wanted to go on the journey of life a bit, and I was worried about the environment. I realised that I didn't have the intellectual knowledge to really do much about it unless I, to some extent, retrained. So Julie, my wife at the time, and I went to Australia. We both did zoology degrees. It took 4 years.
Wow.
It took me 5 years because I was also teaching theatre studies at the same time, and I was helping set up a course and saw first students in, last students out. And then I started making, well, it was obvious. It's sort of like, what can I do with that?
Yeah.
And I'd always thought I would. I'd make wildlife films. Well, not just wildlife films, films about wildlife, but the environment.
Yeah.
And by that time, Julie and I had broken up. I went back to London for a while and sat in a room and wrote 3 films. One of them was a film on kangaroos, which National Geographic commissioned. The other turned out in the end, when I started working with that company, was Steve Irwin's first film. And it was so hugely popular, The 10 Deadliest Snakes in the World, that I just have been on a roll ever since. And I've hardly stopped. I've just continuously made wildlife science films since that point. And that's since I'm 13 years. I was 36 when I started, I'm 49 now. Wow. So, yeah.
Have you had any close calls in that time?
I've had a lot of close calls, yeah. I mean, I have to say, it has been an amazing life the last 13 years. I mean, I've filmed in extraordinary places. You know, you're filming things like crocodiles and sharks and lizards in really remote places. I've just finished, most recently on National Geographic, there's a film on Komodo dragons, which are the biggest lizards in the world, massive things. Sure, yeah. And we lived on this tiny island for about 2.5 months with no water. Had to go off once a week to get water on a boat trip that took 14 hours. And filming with Komodo dragons and awesome creatures, amazing place, unbelievable snorkeling just off, you know, terribly cold water. But I I sometimes have to pinch myself and think, somebody's paying me to do this, you know? It's hard work, don't get me wrong. It wouldn't be everybody's cup of tea. It hadn't rained on this island for about 2 years when we were filming. And I told my cameraman not to go for a poo in the toilets because Komodo dragons have got very, very good sense of smell. And a child had been killed, and had gone for a poo in the grass, and the child had been killed by a dragon about 3 weeks before we got there. And Stephen, the cameraman, did go for a poo. And next morning we woke up outside these huts, 3 great big Komodo dragons sitting out there. They'd smelt it. I said, Stephen, I said, you've been for a poo, haven't you? I did tell you. So yes, it has its moments, my life.
Fantastic. And I guess that in summing up, just here today, your life, what's the best thing about being Mark Strickson?
Oh look, I feel blessed. I had a great time as an actor.
Yep.
I was very lucky. I worked very well. I then decided to do something else. Spent 5 years doing my degree and whatever. And ever since then, I've had a fantastic life doing something else. And I know I've been incredibly lucky. But it's also there's an element of courage as well, which is if you're not enjoying what you're, or if you're not enjoying. I mean, I enjoy being an actor, but if you're not totally fulfilled in what you're doing, make a decision. Get on and do something else. And you never know what life's going to throw at you.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I've been making natural history films now for 13 years. Maybe soon it's time for something new. Or maybe I get bored easily, I don't know. Maybe I've had pneumonia and broken too many bones in my body and had malaria and tropical ulcers and things.
Well, I guess that'll let that.
And I need to take life a bit easier, but yeah. But hey, keeps you young.
Fantastic. Can I just ask, is there anywhere that we can contact you or look at, is there a website address for your work?
Absolutely. Well, for starters, the company I work for is called Natural History New Zealand. They're part of National Geographic channel, and they're based now I'm now based in the south of New Zealand in a place called Dunedin. Oh, wow. If you go on to www.nhnz.tv, NHNZ for Natural History New Zealand, you can see all about the company, you can see about what I do, and you'll see a profile of me.
Fantastic.
I am the easiest person in the world actually to find out about because I'm all over the web. That's how I earn my living.
Oh, that's great. And thanks very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.